This week we're looking into Mark chapter 8. Now obviously chapter 8 follows on from chapter 7, where Jesus had been challenging the religious leaders of the day about the traditions that they hold and the way that it gets in the way of really following Jesus. Then last week we also asked questions about various traditions that we have that might hinder us getting to Jesus, but also kind of shape who we are. Now this week in Mark chapter 8, it's another really interesting passage of scripture. Jesus has fed 4,000 people, and that's no mean feat in and of itself. He's healed a blind man who's previously been not able to see, and then encounters Jesus, and his eyes are opened, and he can see. And there's various other things that Jesus has done in between this time. And we get to the end of this chapter, and Jesus is on the way to a village called Caesarea Philippi. He's with his disciples, the people that had been with him for a few months, a year, 18 months maybe, it's unclear, but they've been with him a certain period of time. And so they're on this journey. And Jesus is on the way with them, and he asks them a question. He says, who do people say I am? Now, the disciples responded to Jesus in a way that I guess you or I probably would. They said to him, well, some people say that you are Elijah. Now, Elijah was an Old Testament prophet. Some say that you're a teacher. And there was various other responses that the disciples made. And then Jesus, having heard all that they'd said, listening to them, he then changes the emphasis of the question. And he says, no longer do I ask you, this is what he says. He doesn't ask them about what other people say about who Jesus is. But he says, who do you say I am? Now that's a really pointed question, isn't it? Somebody asks you, who do you say I am? Who am I? I guess that's a big question that we could explore at some point. Who are you? Who are you? Who am I? What makes me me? What makes you you? But this isn't the point of this passage or this text that we have before us today. It's actually about Jesus exploring with his disciples about who they really thought he was. Now, Peter, we've looked at Peter before, and he's a really impulsive guy. He kind of is the first one to often speak amongst the disciples. And he says to Jesus, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Now this is a moment of clarity for Peter. He has this revelation, if you like, this understanding of who Jesus is, and it isn't something that Peter could have conjured up all on his own. It was something that was revealed from heaven. But I want to ask you a question. Okay, Jesus asked that question to his disciples of the day, but who do you say that Jesus is? Jesus has been misinterpreted throughout the ages. People haven't got who he is. They either think that he's just some sort of nut job that, kind of had this demand on people's lives that it caused them to live without any sort of fun or freedom. They either think he was some really good teacher who had a lot of good things to say, or they just think he was a prophet, somebody who came to deliver a message and that was it. Who do you say he is? Who is Jesus? Now Peter was able to make a very clear declaration of who he thought Jesus was. Now, with the people who are gathered in the room with you, or if you're watching this on your own, there's people in many churches who would resonate with what Peter said, that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. Christ means the Messiah, the sent one, the one who came, as John declared, to take away the sin of the world. So who do you say is? Who is this Jesus?